are you training? And we can just sit here and hang out, or you can ask me any questions that come up related to Yoga for BJJ. I can't really help you with questions about life, but Yoga for BJJ I can help most of the time. All right, I'm just pretending to be a tech person, but I'm really not. I'm really not a tech person, but I just pretend. All right, crew, how's everyone doing today? Good? Okay. So is anyone training? Confinement, still can't train. Home training with the brother. Awesome, Pete. Great problem solving. Great problem solving. Does your brother, you're sore, hey? Yeah, today's class will actually be really good for that. I actually had a request for today's class for side stretches. And I was like, that's super cool. So we're going to be looking at, imagine this, side stretches, stretching through the side. But it's, we don't really think of how tight it can get, right? Because you have like the side here and the arms are usually down, unless you're someone that works with the arms overhead. The arms are usually down by the sides, so it tends to get really tight. And part of back pain too can come from the lower back pain can also be because the sides are tight. So basically we got a really, really nice slow class today, because sometimes you just need to chill, and it's okay if you kind of even fall asleep in some of the poses, because yeah, I do that too. That's okay. I discovered you guys in the pandemic, only positive things have come out of it. I was gonna say, awesome, Pete, and I'm like, oh, that's your name. That's really great. Yeah, it's been really, really cool from my side to be able to reach more people. So tell me, Pete, what have you been enjoying? What classes have you been doing? What classes have you been enjoying? What's your favorite stuff? All right, so today's class is what I call a really, really lazy class. We are gonna move through some outer hip openers, and it seems like it's all the time, right? Where the outside of the hips get really tight. And I was actually in my teacher training, my advanced teacher training, and they're like, okay, how often with the hips, like standing up, but how often with the hips do you bring them over the midline or bring them out? They're like, we almost never do this unless we're trying not to trip. And I'm thinking, and I'm just laughing, because I'm like, we do that all the time. We do that all the time in jiu-jitsu. Guard close, going into our sweep, spider guard. I'm like, man, all the time. So it's just such an appreciation of everything that our hips do for us. And even going onto the jiu-jitsu mat, like it's pretty much like, for lack of better words, beating ourselves up, going onto the jiu-jitsu mat. Just making our body do basically everything that it's capable of doing. It's like, no wonder we're sore, and that's okay. And that's okay if we're sore. Just doing this to balance it out, because one thing is always one thing is okay, but too much of one thing, even if it's super, super fun, isn't the best, right? You can always overdo it, just like chocolate. Only at the starter program, but it's fantastic. My biggest problem is my sciatic nerve and my lower back. And you know what? So, Pete, are you doing the 10 and 10? Are you doing the foundation week, or which starter program? We have a couple, probably 10 and 10, hey? That, will help. That yoga. Yoga will help with that. So why do you say that you overtrain? Hurricane Caution, great name. Savage on the mats, eh? I'm a skinny guy, trying not to get all this stuff. Try not to get, yeah, no, I hear you. I'd have the bigger guys be sitting on me. That's probably why I play a lot of guard. I'm like, I can keep you off with my legs. I'm strong for my 7 squats yesterday. So why do you think you overtrain? I want to hear more about that. And then in regards to, just the sciatic pain in lower back, that's so common in jiu-jitsu. I thought it was like just me. Then when I started looking into the big world, I'm like, no, it's pretty much everyone, because the back takes such a crazy toll, and you're going about it the right way, because a lot of the time people are like, I need one exercise for the back, and I'm like, No, like you need to do a whole bunch of things. So the back is sore. It could be the back, it could be the front of the hips, it could be the outside of the hips, it could be the quads on the inside. So you need to do everything. So it's a machine. So for the best results, yeah, just move through the training. My shoulders are my biggest problem. I'm doing the shoulder program, yoga for strikers. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And how are you liking that with the shoulders? So hurricane caution, let me know your range of motion through the shoulders. Do you do striking too? I'm so curious about this. Oh yeah, you did the 10 and 10. Great work, Pete. Such a great program. Has a bit of everything in it, doesn't it? Doing a lot of weights. Been off for a week. And then, yeah, still tight and just in pain. Okay, so yeah, you've done a lot of weights. Yeah, leg stretching is important for the back too. So, yeah, so hurricane caution, you're doing weights and you're probably doing jiu-jitsu too. Hey, you're doing both. Yeah, you know what? I would say, where are you the tightest? Where are you the tightest? Like obviously you're moving into the stretching, which is really good. And even the yoga for the yoga for strikers, that program's going to be continue to be finished, by the way. Next is going to be moving through strengthening of the hips, because the hips are always just certain areas of the hips are just usually weak, and that's no one's fault. It's just we usually don't do these weird hip exercises. So I'm excited about that. Try some slower classes. I like the name Hurricane Caution. I just want to keep saying it. Try some slower classes too. So if you're really sore, the movement is really important to loosen everything up. But also try some slower classes. So if you go into yoga for exhausted, Sebastian has some really great ones, but then I'm actually have put in a couple longer ones, and they're amazing to do even before bed. Like honestly, schedule in an hour, 45 minutes before bed, calms the nervous system right down. Like it's unreal. So keep doing the movement ones just like you are, and go do some of the slower ones. I have some slower, really slow ones for shoulders and yoga for exhausted. And the shoulders take a long time to release. You got to give them time. And the flip side of that is they took a really long time to get tight. So they're going to take a long time to release, and it does get frustrating, right? Like for me, when I started working my shoulders, I'm working on my shoulders for a long time, eh? So for me, let me see if I can move you over here. Another fun test that nobody likes, but we do anyway. On your back, there you go. Put the arms above the head and see how close, this is my class too, for my strikers class, but see how close your arm could get to the ground, right? So that's a really great, really good test. Now don't cheat. What people do to cheat is they'll push the arm down, which will extend the back, put the back into lumbar extension. So no, just keep the back relaxed, even lower back on the ground, and bring that arm up. So you can see, I still have some work to do, right? After 10 years of boxing and training, like it gets tight. And this isn't necessarily just the arm, like this is also moving down and into the lats. So it does, you just keep doing it. Keep doing the stretches, keep moving through it. And I'll tell you, like, I know what it's like to be just so incredibly stiff that it actually hurts. You're just like, I just can't move. And keep doing exactly what you're doing. Do a couple of the flows, and also move into do some of the slower stretches. The slower stretches will really, really help, especially if you're overtraining, because it's probably your nervous system that needs to be calmed down too. So, and probably the personality type, I know that I'm always like, I need to go and learn and do this and fit 80,000 things into one day. And so it's like, okay, to be able to sit in a slow class and just chill, it's unreal. So jump into one of my slower classes in Yoga for Exhausted, and today's class will be really nice and slow too. The target is stretching through the side body, but obviously the side body is attached to the arm. So we will be releasing stuff through the side body, but also through the arm and the outer hip. So everything's connected. So it's really, really, really cool. Yeah, there's some space. My favorite is the shoulder rotation with the gi belt. I'm scheduling the exhausted program. Yeah, I gotta tell you, you're a crackhead for training, I know. Are you doing jiu-jitsu too right now, Hurricane Caution? Yeah. So if you guys want to know something that's, what was I going to say? Yes, you need to, so yeah, that was it. For the Yoga for Exhausted program, Sebastian's classes in there are unreal. He does some with the feet up the wall. You literally do nothing, and it just feels so nice to have the feet above. Then I actually had, because I'm a maniac like that, I'm like, okay, I gotta learn a bunch of stuff, and I actually realized I'm a little bit of a geek. I don't know, but it's super interesting. Yin yoga, which is slower held postures, but you need to have like specific positions for it. So that's what we do in my classes. And yin is just allowing the connective tissue to release, like muscles and ligaments and tendons and fascia, because they need to be released too. And that's kind of what my hour-long classes are. So it's been a really cool journey learning about that and how much it's helped me. I've been doing more of them because I have people messaging and they're like, man, it helps. BJJ, wrestling, Muay Thai, MMA, got a pro BJJ. You have a pro BJJ match in April in South, I'm going to say it's wrong, South Padra. Padra? Did I say that right? Dude, that's so exciting. So you know what? Hurricane caution, any excuse to say your name. Yeah, I would say even tonight, schedule an hour, go into Yoga for Exhausted. Actually, you could do my class with me right now too, for the side stretches. But I did 2 really great ones. They're an hour long. One's focus is on hamstring and the other's focus is on the outer hip. And obviously we target other areas too within the class, because you don't want to sit in one pose stretching one thing. Like I'll do the outer hip. Like last week I did the outer hip, but we did prep for it to make the stretch super effective. So we didn't just sit there and stretch outer hip like this. Like there was to get here and for this to feel good or even bearable. There's variations, but we did some prep around it. And same thing for today. Like today's class is, people think, oh, side stretches. I'm like, no, we're going to do some prep before that so that they actually work and so they actually feel good. I love Vinyasa Yoga. I even use it for active recovery sometimes. And you know what? I didn't say that right. Yeah. Oh, Vinyasa Yoga, I love it. I love it, I love it. Vinyasa Yoga is basically flowing through the postures with breath. And it is also like, it just depends what you want. Like some people need really slow held postures, and other people, exactly like you said, want to use it more for recovery, like just days off recovery. And if you wake up really slow, it's really nice to be able to get the blood flowing and everything moving. And it just depends what you need. Like for some people, if they're training a lot and there's a lot going on in their life and they're really stressed, like there's just bam, 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 bam. I'm like, okay, maybe the slower held postures might be better. And then for other people, like, oh, I'm training jiu-jitsu 3 times a week and I'm just a bit sore 4 times. I just want to get the blood moving, bit of cross training, Vinyasa Yoga. So it's super interesting because there's so many answers, so many of the right answers. And the best one is, I'm like, what works for you? What feels good for you? What do you like about Vinyasa Yoga? What's your favorite part about Vinyasa Yoga? I'll tell you my favorite part. I'll tell you guys my favorite part. Mine is the back, strengthening through the back. That's my favorite because, again, moving back to, it was Paul, moving back to Paul. Helping with sciatic nerve in the back, right? There's so many elements in that. But what I love about the Vinyasa Yoga is the back bends, right? So plank, going down, and then moving into it. And I'll tell you a secret, I hate upward facing dog. I hate it. I find it compresses my back. I don't have a very flexible spine. I hate it. And I did it for so long and I always hurt my back. And then I learned you don't have to do upward facing dog. You can go into what's called skydiver or locust. You can move into cobra with no hands. You can move into cobra. And even sphinx always feels really great. But use the elbows to pull up and forward. So it's like, that's probably my favorite part, moving through the strengthening in the back. And it feels so good. I started yoga this week. Do you think that is good for my BJJ? You know what? Yes. Being a black belt in jiu-jitsu and having started yoga when I was later in the brown, yeah, absolutely. Because jiu-jitsu is one side, and to balance all of that, is the yoga. The jiu-jitsu, we're constantly leaning forward. The yoga counters that, opens the back up. Jiu-jitsu, we're putting so much stress on the body through the hips and moving. Of course it's going to get tight because we're having a ton of fun, but you need to balance that. So much jiu-jitsu. The legs are bent. They're in flexion. Hips are in flexion. That's a fancy word for your legs are bent. So we want to balance that out. Straight. That's why it feels so darn good. This is the best thing you can do for your jiu-jitsu off the jiu-jitsu mats. Really. So I love Warrior 3. We just hold your balance on one foot. Helps a ton for judo balance in general. You know what? With that Warrior 3, I'm still on camera, outstanding. For that Warrior 3, balancing, moving forward, and either hands in front, or you can have your hands out here, depending on your flexibility of the arms, but you can put your arms in front. So me, honestly, full disclosure, I find that because my shoulders are still tight and I'm working on it, when I bring my arms out, my back starts to arch. You want to keep, boom, core tight. So this feels better. The balance through that leg is massive. You're so right. For all the stabilizing muscles, for the strengthening, for everything, it's so massive. Like, it's not like, oh, this would be fun to do. It's like, this is super important. All right, team. So I'm going to get ready for my live stream. I would love to have you join me. You can jump on my story on Facebook, swipe up, I'll take you to the website, or if you just go to the website or the app, it's right on the banner. All right, so we have side stretches, and I look forward to seeing everyone there.